On.
Shane Wright, let's go!
Yes! Shane Wright to the Kraken. 4th overall. Can you believe it? Friedman says the Devils may be going D.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's the best case scenario for the Kraken right there.
absolutely.
Because
It
that
means that one of Cooley or Wright would fall to the Kraken.
exactly. If that's what's going, if New Jersey is keeping this pick and they're going to go that route, that is phenomenal for the Kraken. We are like set. Like we don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, some GM.
Okay, and there we go. Shimon Nemec. Wow. Okay,
All
so
right.
yeah, we'll get the Kraken stuff out of the way. Ryder
Yes.
Cooley, absolutely confirmed. Well, they're going. One of them will be available for the Kraken. I guess we can't say confirmed. One of them will be a Kraken. Ron Francis can,
Yeah.
of course, decide to go somewhere else. But as far as I'm concerned, Cabell is the only acceptable alternative.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many other fans would be on board with me there. Yeah, I mean that's just a phenomenal thing to happen for the Kraken.
This is a dream scenario playing out for Seattle right now. One of Cooley or Wright will be available. I can't imagine going whoever is not, left on the board at that point. Have to think the Coyotes take, although you know what? Forget what we have to think. I was saying that for these last 2 picks and I was wrong. So we'll see who they pick. Maybe the Coyotes will take Cutter Gauthier and the Kraken will have both those guys on the board. But yeah, what a way for this to shake out.
You
That would
just
be
say
awesome.
Logan Cooley. All right, there we go. Logan Cooley going to Arizona.
Wow. Shane Wright will be on the board for the Kraken.
Shane Wright is on the board.
You have to take him, right?
You absolutely have to take him. I'm not even sure.
100%.
I'm not even sure I'd want them to take Kamel at this point.
No, do not take Kamel. Dylan, do not take Kamel.
That's a lot for me. So yeah, I think this is the perfect scenario. But like I said, it's kind of the perfect matchup for team and player with Shane Wright, because it gives the Kraken the opportunity to have the second line center, this two-way guy. Him and, just like I was saying, Logan Cooley makes sense in Arizona because he's so much like Clayton Keller. Shane Wright's a lot like Matty Beniers. They're hard workers. They enjoy playing defense. They want to work on playing defense. They want to play a two-way game. They want to be out there on the PK. They want to be doing all of the little things that turn your team into a championship team. They just absolutely love doing that and being a part of all that. And so having someone like Shane Wright be there in the same system with Matty Beniers, it just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be, I'm just thinking about the future now. This is so exciting as they're building the team. This is kind of the core down the middle. This is going to be such a tough team to play against, especially in the playoffs.
Yes.
You've got Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, both so defensively responsible. I mean, what a 1-2 punch at center. This is the kind of thing that championship teams are made of, is having these centers that can control play like this, shut down opposing lines. I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting, and now we're almost back to the waiting game. Like it's almost like the beginning of like before the draft started, because it's just, does it happen? Like I almost don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole and jinx anything. You know what I mean?
I know. Do not take Juracek. Do not take Kamel. Please, Ron Francis, do the right thing. Make the right pick.
Yes.
You know what? I trust him. I think Ron Francis
too.
will make the right pick here.
I do too. Like I said,
he's not going to overthink this.
Organizationally, it makes the most sense. It's the most, of these top 4 spots, it's the place that made the most sense for Shane Wright, kind of all along. He wasn't going to be the number 1 center superstar kind of guy for Montreal to build their whole future around. It didn't make sense to just add another center to New Jersey. And if you're Arizona, he plays a different game than what you're already building around. So this is the spot where it makes the most sense from the organization. Why are we seeing Gary Bettman? Is he just saying Seattle?
Wait, trade? Oh no, Ron, what have you done?
2 trades.
2 trades.
Why are all the Montreal fans happy? We survived the first trade, so it's Romanov to the Islanders, it looks like. Thank you, chat. These Montreal fans are going crazy.
Okay, Kirby Doc. Kirby Doc to Montreal. Okay, I'm just
Interesting.
glad neither of those involved the
Okay.
Kraken.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
Oh,
Okay.
I can't
What?
handle this.
This is amazing. This is the best draft in that I can ever remember. This is
I was gonna
incredible.
say I had to cancel my cardiologist appointment because it was gonna overlap with this draft. Like I can't take this stuff, man. They're killing me here.
What?
Don't.
Wait, did I really?
What did you do, RJ?
Okay, it better be Shane Wright. I will tell the story later. Hang on.
Shane Wright, let's go!
Yes, Shane Wright to the Kraken, fourth overall. Can you believe it?
No, I really can't.
I cannot believe it. So Dylan, when are we gonna just wake up and it'll be the morning of draft day?
I know. I'm waiting for everyone to be like at the end of like the top five, just be like, okay, so that was like a fun rehearsal, wasn't it?
Yep.
As we get used to
Okay.
in-person drafting again.
Yep. Oh my God. Okay, so now I can tell the story real quick. Apparently, as I'm looking down, I accidentally hit the send button. I had the tweet ready to go, and I accidentally hit the tweet button. I didn't even know. I wasn't even checking Twitter. So I'm glad it was the pick.
You wanted to be
Okay, I
first
got our
so
graphics
bad.
guy to make a last minute graphic. So I had it ready, and then I guess my thumb hit it as I was like looking up here and scrolling all the tabs. Whatever.
Whatever.
Shane Wright is Seattle Kraken. Dylan,
Exactly.
we get to cover Shane Wright.
I know. It's gonna be so exciting. We get to cover him with Matty Beniers. Like, we get to these franchise cornerstones forever as we watch the highlights here from Shane Wright and we see what he's able to do. It was the first scouting report that I did, and it was all the way back in really January. I was putting it all together and releasing it back then. And at that point in his season, he had talked openly about how he was only focused on defense and improving the defensive aspects of his game. He was modeling himself after Patrice Bergeron, which is obviously, the most ideal person you can model
Yes.
yourself off of if you're a two-way player. And I talked about how his offensive game had significantly dropped off because of that, because he was so focused on his defense and stuff. And a lot of people were critical about that, and a lot of people, that was what was opening the door to a lot of the conversations of, could someone else be the first overall pick? Well, after I made that, and later on towards the end of the season, he decided, oh yeah, I'm just going to remind everybody that I can be an elite scorer. I can score a ton of goals. I have a fantastic shot and ability to read defenses because I understand it all so well. And he really showcased his offensive ability late in the season. He finished on an absolute scoring tear. Didn't have a super long playoff run, unfortunately, with Kingston or anything, but so didn't get to see stuff there. But he still has plenty of offensive upside, as much as everybody's been talking up his two-way ability, and certainly, you and I have been talking about that, and why he'd be such an ideal fit as a 2C. Just know the dude still has elite offensive ability as an exceptional player. I mean, he walked to the OHL and he scored insane amounts of goals for someone at his age. He has an interesting shot process, I'll say. It's not like a standard release or anything, but it gets the job done. And just his ability to view and manage the ice. He's an exceptionally smart player when he's out there, and that fits in, super well with guys like Matty Beniers. And I think that's a direction Ron Francis wants to go. And how about that, right? Last year, Ron Francis taking a guy who maybe needed to work on his offensive game for another year, but he felt very much reminded him of him as a two-way guy, kind of likes to grind it out, likes to be responsible defensively, but can still contribute a lot offensively, and a super hard worker. I think Ron Francis is doing that again. I think we can officially say Ron Francis has a new type when drafting. It's no longer defenseman. It's no longer whoever has the firmest handshake. It's just whoever is the closest Ron Francis in this draft class.
Yep, and what a system to have. You know what? That is how you build a successful team. I will take a team full of Ron Francises any day, and just what a great foundation. I'm so excited.
Did it, and I do think that, I'm okay with a player kind of doing like what we saw with Matty Beniers. When he was drafted, like the first thing out of his mouth was basically, I got to be better offensively. I'm going to go back to Michigan. I'm going to work on that, and then I'm going to be ready. And he was. And I feel like Shane Wright kind of did that, but a year early. It was just, hey, you know what? I know I'm already going to be a top pick, and I can do all this offensive stuff at the OHL level. I want to go ahead and try to round out my game early so that I can make an immediate impact at the NHL level at 18. I'm just going to focus on defense this year, and I'm just going to get really good at that, and he did. And so it's going to be really interesting, and all of a sudden training camp's going to be crazy interesting because
Oh
of
yes.
anybody, I thought he was probably best set up to make the leap right away to the NHL. And it'll be interesting to see if Ron Francis and co want to do that or not.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be the biggest question of training camp is does Shane Wright make the roster? Does he stay or does he take another year in junior? It's going to be a tough call, but he's going to have every opportunity to make the roster, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
mean, we need to do a whole thing about how this affects the rest of the offseason and building the team because we just didn't project someone who would, the Kraken taking someone who would be able to, step in at center right away potentially. This really has to affect the long-term thinking for the team.
right. I mean, Ron Francis talked about wanting a top 6 forward and a top 9 forward. This is your top 9 forward
Yeah,
right there.
it is
He's gonna be on an ELC.
right
You don't
away.
gotta worry about
Actually.
that. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think it definitely affects the offseason. I think we'll see if this affects how aggressive. Hey, shout out to Ben there, walking with Shane Wright, Kraken
Yep.
media member there, uh, team staff member. Let's see. Yeah. So it's one of those things where if you're Kraken now and you know that you have these cornerstones to your rebuild process long term,
Mhm.
does that make you want to say, hey, maybe we don't need to be aggressive this offseason with the on the UFA market. Let's go ahead and give it another year, and then we could probably be ready to go next year. Especially if you
Right.
feel like Shane Wright's going to play this year, let him just let this just be a development year for him. Let Matty get a full year under his belt. Let all that stuff shake out, and then you enter next off season and say, okay, now let's try to optimize the cheap ELC years left on Wright and Beniers once they're your 1 and 2C. But otherwise, I mean, yes, you've got Wenberg now. That's and
Mhm.
Yanni Gord. There's your 4 centers.
That's
That's an insane
incredible.
lineup, right?
This is looking so good going forward. I mean, this really is, kind of the building of a truly special team. When
Mm-hmm.
you're built like that down the middle. Yes, there's some needs on defense. Yes, you've got to solidify, the goaltending with what you have, but that's all very doable. The toughest part of all that is just having that center depth, that depth down the middle that the Kraken now have locked in for, hopefully a decade plus.
Right. So going back to because I see Lindsay's question about will we see Shane playing in Seattle right away. So here's what I don't want to have happen, and I don't want to have them bring him in just to be like their 4th line center, where he's going to play like 9 minutes a night, because that's not going to be good for his development. I'd rather him go back to the OHL and play, 20 plus minutes a night in Kingston. That will be way better for his development. Yes, he won't be there for all the, NHL lifestyle stuff. Learning all of the routines and all that stuff that I talked about was very important with Maddie, bringing him in at the end of last season so that Maddie could have all that
Mhm.
stuff ready to go for this next upcoming off season. It's way more important for all of these players, and this is advice that I would give to any NHL team, is playing time is the thing that matters most, especially for this group that lost years, like entire seasons to COVID. The playing time is the number one most important thing. It is not about the competition that they're playing against. You can give them things to work on, and if they're getting 20 plus minutes a night at a major junior level or in a men's league in Europe, that is way better than sticking them on on your 4th line here and kind of just being like a hawk over their shoulders, and they're riding the bench most nights, because that's not going to do them any good. They're not going to have the time to implement any of the things you want them to and really get better.
Mhm.
So if that's gonna if in the Kraken's mind that's the only spot open, is kind of like him starting off on the 4th line, unless they plan on really working him up through the lineup over the course of a year, I don't want him to play with the Kraken next season.
Agreed.
I don't think that that's realistic. I think that you could probably slot him in to the 3rd line, and I think that would be enough playing time. And then over the course of the year, if everything goes right, you can move him up to the 2nd line from there. And then all of a sudden, you've got Yanni Gord with the most, centering a fantastic checking line as your 3rd line, and you've got Wenberg as the best 4th line centerman in the league.
Yeah, I think almost no matter how this shakes out, Wettenberg is poised to be the best fourth line setter in the league. It's just incredible 1 through 4 at center. I agree. You want to get Shane Wright that playing time. You don't want him to be sitting there on the fourth line. It's going to be very important how you manage him and the opportunities and the deployment that he gets. It's going to be a real challenge for Dave Haxtell to kind of try and manage all of that. It's not easy. So it's something we're going to have to be watching very closely if Wright does go the distance and play the whole season.